And it was a really angry green man.
Hulk.
Hulk.
Yeah, and you thought Lethal Protector was a shit name.
Yeah, because it is.
Hey, welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and let's face it, things just aren't like they used to be. Once upon a time, when the credits of a film began to roll, you got up and you left the theater. Unless you were one of those nerds who stayed to watch the whole thing so you could, embrace the score. I was one of those nerds.
Go outside, nerd. Get out. Go.
But all of that changed when Marvel movies popularized the mid-credits and post-credits scenes. These are fun little teases for the fans, giving us a sneak peek of what was coming next for our favorite heroes. But here recently, Marvel's post-credits scenes have sucked. So in this video, we want to go through every one of the MCU's post-credit scenes in the multiverse saga and break down the good, the bad, and the ugly. But more importantly, we're going to analyze exactly why some of these scenes worked, why they didn't, and why these scenes are emblematic of the larger problem facing the multiverse saga of the MCU. So the multiverse saga's first post-credit scene was featured in Black Widow. Natasha's sister, Yelena Belova, is visiting her sister's grave following her death in Avengers Endgame. We then get the introduction of Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. We see Valentina set Yelena down a path of revenge for her sister's alleged killer, Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. Now, this post-credit scene on its surface wasn't that bad. It teases the upcoming Hawkeye series, as well as an interesting dynamic between Natasha's sister and her best friend. And while the payoff we got in the Hawkeye series wasn't that great, it's not really this post-credit scene's fault. Another thing this scene teased was Valentina's formation of the Thunderbolts, a group of MCU anti-heroes getting their own movie at the very end of Phase 5. Now keep in mind though, this scene was in the first movie of Phase 4, and they're already teasing a movie that was slated for the end of Phase 5. Granted, the multiverse saga planned to move much quicker than the Infinity Saga, and it didn't have a Phase 4 Avengers film to tease, but it still just felt a little bit weird that they were teasing an end of Phase 5 project at the start of Phase 4, and that project wasn't even an Avengers movie. I mean, are casual fans really going to remember this setup by the time the Thunderbolts comes out?
No!
Hey person, what are your New Year's resolutions?
I don't have any.
None?
Nope. I used to have a real problem with stress eating, like I was constantly snacking all day, and then I would always suck on breath mints that would give me headaches, and all of this was just caused by stress, so then I quit.
How'd you do that?
Well, I kicked my bad oral fixation habits by using Fume. They're the sponsor of this video.
Oh, is that a vape?
Nope, it's not a vape, it is not electronic, and it does not have pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals. Instead, it has these plant-based cores that are infused with natural flavors to create natural flavored air. I recently started my favorite flavor, orange vanilla, and it even freshens my breath.
Yeah, it does smell very nice.
Thanks, ma'am. You see, Fume uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. Plus, it has adjustable airflow and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which frankly is very helpful for calming my anxiety. Fume makes switching easy and even fun. They have thousands of 5-star reviews from more than 150,000 customers who have used Fume to change their lives and switched when other solutions just didn't work. So head to tryfume.com/ScreenCrush and use the code ScreenCrush to save 10% off when you get your Journey Pack today. The Journey Pack comes with 3 unique flavors and everything you need to finally be free of your bad habit. Plus, you can upgrade your Journey Pack with Fume Solano. This includes a premium walnut barrel and onyx black coated mouthpiece that has a smoother finish, and you still get 10% off. That is tryfum.com and use the code ScreenCrush to get an additional 10% off your order today. Now, back to what I was saying. So the next post-credit scene was Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And guys, this one just makes me angry. This scene has everything you would hope for in an MCU post-credit scene. Big name heroes from other movies, an eerie mystery seemingly teasing an upcoming threat, but it's nothing but a shell of what these scenes used to be. Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner feel like they're standing on a soundstage reading lines they were handed a few minutes before they started filming. Now, Mark Ruffalo and Brie Larson are world-class actors, so they make it work. But this post-credit scene has yet to be touched on in any of the subsequent films. Not only have we not seen or heard from Shang-Chi since this movie, which is one of the best post-Endgame movies I might add, but neither She-Hulk nor the Marvels followed up on anything this post-credit scene teased. The Marvels was the perfect opportunity to at least mention a connection between the Kree, the Ten Rings, and the Bangles, and their connection to the Quantum Bands and the Negabands from the comics, which all could have been a connection to Kang and the multiverse and the saga's bigger story that was unfolding. But no, there was no follow-up, no connection, and it made this already flat post-credit scene feel even flatter.
Come
come on, really?
Now, Shang-Chi's second post-credit scene wasn't bad. It was more so a tease for a second Shang-Chi film, or perhaps a setup for the Ten Rings organization serving as a villain for the Thunderbolts, or something like that. Again, this scene would mean a lot more if they had even announced a Shang-Chi sequel by now. Next came the Eternals, and boy howdy, were these post-credit scenes a doozy. First up came the, hey, this guy's really popular cameo from Harry Styles as Eros, accompanied by his CGI troll, Pip, played by a dream-fulfilling Patton Oswalt. Now, I guess you could say this was a tease for an Eternals sequel.
A sequel that will never happen.
You're right, Doug, that Eternals sequel will probably never happen.
Wait a minute, what's going on? What is this thing? Are you replacing me?
Doug, nobody could replace you, but if you would like to bring Doug home with you for a very limited time, we are selling these Doug plushies in partnership with Makeshift. I'm not kidding when I say it's a limited time. Like, they have a very specific window for how long this campaign can last, and there's only just a few days left. So if you do want a Doug plushie, you have to go to Makeshift, buy one soon. No pressure. If you don't want one, don't buy one. I don't care either way, but they're really cute, they're really fun, they're really soft, and also, of course, we have lots of shirt designs on our merch store and Doug ornaments where, we design all of the merch ourselves. It's a great way for you to support the ScreenCrush team, so buy a plushie or don't. Totally up to you, but I hope you do.
I hope you do too. Oh yeah, take me home with you. I hate you.
So yeah, Doug's, we're probably not going to get an Eternal sequel despite the fact that that film is awesome.
It was not.
Was too.
Was not, Quitsies.
Was too. Quitsies, no anti-Quitsies, no Starties.
You can't do that.
Can too.
Cannot stamped it.
Can too. Double stamped it.
Cannot triple stamped it, no erases. Touch blue, make it true.
You can't triple stamp a double stamp. You can't triple stamp a double stamp. Doug, you can't triple stamp a double stamp. You can't triple stamp a double stamp.
Guys! The video!
Right. Sorry.
Eternal sucks.
So, the second post-credit scene of the Eternals teased Mahershala Ali's Blade and Dane Whitman becoming the Black Knight. I would assume the overwhelming majority of people had no idea what this was even teasing.
I have no idea what's going on.
I mean, you would have to recognize Mahershala Ali's voice
Sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?
and be aware that he had been cast as Blade, a movie which still has yet to lock down its script. And I mean, they could have at least showed us Blade from behind in his classic black leather trench coat or something like that, but it ended up being yet another directionless tease that will be 5+ years old by the time Blade or something like Midnight Suns ever sees the light of day. Now next comes what I find to be the most offensive MCU post-credit scene to date. Spider-Man No Way Home's Venom tease, if you even want to call it that. So in the post-credit scene for Venom Let There Be Carnage, which was not even an MCU film by the way, so we aren't even going to critique that scene specifically, just like we won't mention this monstrosity.
Intriguing.
Anyways, in Venom Let There Be Carnage, we see Eddie and Venom get teleported to the MCU as a result of Doctor Strange's spell that we'd be seeing happen in No Way Home. Now, this post-credit scene on its own was kind of awesome.
Until we've uncovered the behind this web of lies. I'm Jacob.
This scene brought Venom into the MCU. Venom recognizes Peter Parker and Spider-Man on TV because he's apparently part of a hive mind of multiversal symbiote knowledge that he shared with Eddie, and it teased a clash between Tom Holland's Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse Venom. It was freaking awesome, and then it all led to this.
Tell me again about your purple alien that loves stones.
Venom has no role in No Way Home. He and Spider-Man never meet. The logic for Eddie and Venom even being affected by Strange's spell was a massive reach. And come the post-credit scene, we see a drunk Eddie and Venom get teleported back to their universe. And for what? Why were these scenes even a thing? To get more butts in the seats, but to not actually deliver on this tease.
You know, person, we did see a piece of Venom get left behind at the bar.
Yeah, true, so I guess that's another one of Venom's offspring, just like Carnage was, and I guess it'll find its way to Peter Parker whenever they decide to do the Black Suit arc with Tom Holland. It's just like a mess, and a real slap in the face to the people who are committed enough to stick around for these scenes because they actually care about the franchise. But to be fair, I'm willing to bet that these post-credit scenes weren't the MCU's doing. They have Sony written all over them.
But I think a bunch of guys like us should team up. Could do some good.
Intriguing.
Now, in the second release of No Way Home, we got an additional post-credit scene where they show us Midtown High's student news report featuring pictures of Peter and his classmates, but Peter's face is covered in all the pictures, and in videos you can only see the back of his head. And I actually appreciated this scene because it answered some important questions we all had about how the Forget Peter Parker spell actually worked. Did it actually remove Peter's name and picture from existence, or did it wipe him from everyone's memory and make people subconsciously avoid seeing or acknowledging his existence? This post-credit scene confirmed that it is the latter.
We made friendships that will last forever.
Next up, we have Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, its first post-credit scene featured the introduction of Clea, portrayed by Charlize Theron.
You caused an incursion, and we're gonna fix it.
Now, I'll give this post-credit scene credit for actually teasing the future of the multiverse saga and the incursions to come. But the post-credit scene itself just feels flat. It's just another, ooh, look, a big-name celebrity standing in front of goofy-looking CGI. We have no idea who this Clea character is, her name isn't even said in the scene, and once again, we have no idea what it's even teasing. Doctor Strange 3? One of the Avengers movies? Hell, at the time, one may have wondered if it had something to do with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. But instead of getting anyone excited for what it was teasing, we just got yet another new character in an already overcrowded universe, and another look at Strange's creepy third eye.
Or as I like to call it, his CGI.
Nice one, high five. But the most egregious thing about this post-credits scene is that it totally undermined the amazing ending of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, Sam Raimi loves to do this. He ends his movies on big cliffhangers where it looks like, oh, the villain might have won at the last minute. We see this in Evil Dead and the original cut of Army of Darkness. So his original ending with Strange screaming was a great cliffhanger that is completely undermined by this scene, which shows that Steven now has control of his third eye. It's an example of the studio forcing a post-credits scene in that undermined the actual movie that was featured. You want another good example of that? The original Thor movie, where it turned out Loki was alive and somehow controlling Eric Selvig's mind to set up the Avengers. Now, the second post-credit scene of Multiverse of Madness was fine, I guess.
It's over!
I mean, look, I love me some Bruce Campbell cameos. His Sam Raimi Spider-Man cameos are gold. But his cameo in Multiverse of Madness, didn't do much for me.
Pizza Papa always gets paid.
I would have much rather had some kind of conversation scene between Campbell and Strange exchanging some quips. So while this post-credit scene isn't overly offensive, just not my cup of tea. Okay, so next is Thor: Love and Thunder, and its first post-credit scene was actually pretty good.
Do you understand me, my son? Yes, Father.
The idea of Thor, son of Odin, being hunted down by Hercules, son of Zeus, is a really fun idea. I'd love to see a Thor versus Hercules movie that grapples with the burdens of being the son of a king and a god, and the parallels that Hercules must share with Thor and Loki. My only question is, when are we going to be expecting that movie? I mean, is there really room for it with everything else going on in the multiverse? I really hope so. I want to see it. And we actually recently discussed the idea of gods and demons becoming a bigger part of the multiverse saga. So a battle between Thor and Hercules could work great. And maybe we could even see Hercules join Thor and Loki in their fight to save the multiverse. But still, last year Brett Goldstein confirmed that Marvel hadn't contacted him about any future projects yet. So again, it's like the Doctor Strange cameo. We'll just keep adding more and more characters to the mix. Okay, so Love and Thunder's second post-credit scene was not bad. We did get to see Heimdall again after all.
Welcome to Valhalla.
But my only problem with this scene is that it completely undermines the idea of Jane's sacrifice. But then again, this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe where
No one's ever really gone.
And now we've arrived at the end of Phase 4 with the post-credits scene of Wakanda Forever.
My name is Prince T'Challa, son of King T'Challa.
Now look, it is no secret that I'm of the opinion that they probably should have recast the character of T'Challa following Chadwick Boseman's tragic passing, but they decided to go in a different direction and kill off his character. This post-credit scene reveals that T'Challa fathered a child with Nakia before being dusted in Infinity War, and in a way, it did give us a new T'Challa with the son sharing the same name as his father, and I appreciate the idea of lineage and that a piece of Chadwick will live on in the MCU. Again, I would have really preferred if they just would have kept the character of T'Challa alive and recast him, but as a tribute to the character and as a tribute to the actor, this film was solid. Like, it really slapped. I thought it worked really well. And I know that someday we will see a new T'Challa as the King of Wakanda and as the new Black Panther. So now we are at Phase 5, kicking things off with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And I don't know about you guys, but I loved this movie and its post-credit scenes. They were hands down some of the most exciting post-credit scenes we've gotten in a long time from the MCU, and they played a major role in teasing what's to come with the multiverse saga. First, we had the reveal of the Multiversal Council of Kangs. Now, the imagery of this scene was ripped straight from the comics and showed us just how big of a threat Kang could be for our heroes. And I mean, come on, we got Rama freaking Tut, the very first Kang variant to be introduced in the comics, and the guy who went toe-to-toe with the Fantastic Four way back in the 1960s. As a comic fanboy, this was just like a dream come true to see. And then come the second scene where we actually got a tease for something that was coming out soon, a direct scene from Loki Season 2.
Can shape it.
It's him.
So this is what the MCU post-credit scenes used to be. A fun tease or even a scene from an upcoming project that we could actually get excited for because we knew what it was and that it was coming soon. I remember sitting in the theater and watching Quantumania, and when Tom Hiddleston's Loki popped up on screen, my theater cheered. And that was something I had not heard in a while watching a post-credit scene.
In a long time. A long time.
And we're going to see this a lot. Anytime these post-credit scenes actually connect to people that we care about, actually connect to stories that we're already following, they're a big success. A great example of this is the post-credit scene in Ant-Man, where we get a scene from Captain America Civil War. Like, everybody wanted to know what the Avengers were going to be up to post-Age of Ultron. We were already looking forward to Captain America Civil War. They didn't have to introduce a new character, they didn't have to show us T'Challa or Spider-Man, just give us a simple scene from that movie to say, hey, this is what's coming up next. And then came Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which some would call the saving grace of MCU's multiverse saga. And the same can also be said for its post-credit scenes.
But these townsfolk can't protect themselves.
On your work, Captain.
Following the Guardians of the Galaxy's breakup, we see fan favorites Rocket Raccoon and Groot leading a new team of Guardians featuring Kraglin, Adam Warlock, Cosmo the Space Dog, and Phyla-Vell. And I just adored this scene. We get this comic-accurate rendering of Groot, we get to see Rocket taking his place as a leader, and we get to see a tease that maybe there will be more Guardian films to come despite their original team going their separate ways. This is how you do a post-credit scene. The same can be said for the second post-credit scene featuring Peter Quill's return home.
Don't get me started.
Really? I kind of want to know.
This tease assured fans that Star-Lord would return, and for hardcore fans, it teased a specific comic line, the legendary Star-Lord, a solo outing by the Guardians' former leader. And we actually did a video when Guardians 3 came out talking about what this post-credit scene could be checking out, so be sure to check that out if you haven't already. Basically, we say that they should have combined his Star-Lord movie with an Eternal sequel, put out a pitch for it, it really slaps. Kevin, give me a call. And finally, we have our most recent MCU post-credit scene, the shoehorned X-Men cameo in the Marvels. So look, I actually like the Marvels. I have some critiques for it. I think they had a great movie there, but then they overcut it to make it into a good movie. So I have some critiques, but for the most part, I enjoyed the film. And I also like the post-credit scene. I love the X-Men, and Kelsey Grammer's Beast is always a delight.
Morning, Logan. Late start.
Also, we have a Fraser Beast shirt for sale at our merch store. Be sure to check it out in the link below. But having said all that, this really did feel kind of forced and last minute, and them teasing a post-credit scene in the trailers for the movie just felt really desperate. But if we're going to judge the post-credit scene on its own merit and see what it was teasing for the future, man, I gotta say I'm excited. Like, we did a video the other day talking about how Loki Season 2 is like setting up Avengers vs. X-Men and how that's going to take the place of Avengers the Kang Dynasty, so seeing yet another X-Men tease with the multiverse gets me even more excited for what Feige has planned for Deadpool 3, Secret Wars, and hopefully, dear God, an Avengers vs. X-Men movie.
Please, I'm begging you.
So those are all the movies, but I also want to talk about some of the MCU series post-credit scenes. Now look, I'm not going to talk about all of them because most of them are just teasing the following week's episode, but I do want to focus on the season finale's post-credit scenes. So first we have WandaVision, which no surprise here, knocked it out of the park. The season finale's first post-credit scene gave us a great tease for what was next for Monica Rambeau and her involvement with Nick Fury.
He heard you've been grounded. He'd like to meet with you.
And this tease has already paid off with the release of the Marvels, so props to them for giving a fun tease that actually paid off in a decent time frame. WandaVision's second post-credit scene was even better, with the reveal that Wanda was still messing around with the Darkhold. Now this scene was an awesome tease for Multiverse of Madness and Wanda's villainous turn to find her boys in the multiverse. I should also add that this tease was originally supposed to come just a few months before Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Look, because of COVID and strikes and basically overworking CGI artists,
the visual effects team has moved on to another project.
a lot of Marvel projects have been pushed back and delayed, and this is part of the problem with these post-credit scenes. They're teasing projects that maybe were supposed to come around sooner, but that ended up happening a lot later. Next came the Captain Marvel tease at the end of Ms. Marvel. Again, very fun. It teased something that has since been paid off. No complaints from me on that one. So the TV series post-credit scenes are all pretty refreshing after the crap the movies have been giving us. And look, I'm not picking on Marvel. The DCEU post-credit scenes have pretty much always sucked.
But if you want the Batman, his name is Bruce Wayne.
On second thought, we do have something to celebrate.
The DCEU is famous for teasing things that never happened, primarily because the direction of their cinematic universe was constantly changing. And that's what seemingly happened with the MCU post-Infinity Saga. We have gotten a plethora of post-credit scenes in phases 4 and 5. Some great, some just boring, some bad. And the one thing that most of them have in common is that they are all directionless. Phase 1's post-credit scenes were solid. We kicked things off with Nick Fury recruiting Tony Stark into a bigger universe.
Mr. Stark, you become part of a bigger universe.
Then came our first big crossover with Tony Stark showing up in the post-credits of The Incredible Hulk, which in hindsight made no sense, so they had to retcon it with a short film. We got a Thor tease in Iron Man 2, Loki's tease as the Avengers' new big bad, Steve Rogers waking up in modern day, and of course, the big Thanos tease at the end of the Avengers.
To challenge them is to court death.
The point is that each of these post-credit scenes had a meaning and led directly into an upcoming project. Phases 2 and 3 did a good job at keeping up the quality and purpose of their post-credit scenes as well, whereas now the post-credit scenes are kind of all over the place and directionless. Now, like I alluded to earlier, there is a reason for this. It's because handling like a movie franchise, let alone a sprawling movie franchise that goes across different media like TV and film, that's really hard to do. Marvel may have like sketched out something on a whiteboard at the start of the multiverse saga, but then you run into real life obstacles. There's production delays, there's COVID, there's actors not being available to film on certain days, there's needing more reshoots than you anticipated, there's overworking visual effects artists so She-Hulk and Scar look like this.
This is my son, Scar.
When Marvel was doing 1 or 2 films a year, it was easy to manage the post-credit scenes. But now, post-credit scenes feel like we're being manipulated by the studio. They think, well, we don't actually have something to show them now, so just put something in there, right? We'll get to it down the line. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe Brett Goldstein is confirmed for Avengers vs. X-Men or something like that. But I think we're taking the MCU, which is already filled with all these characters that haven't paid off, like White Vision, for example, or Shang-Chi, and we're just adding more characters. And after a while, it turns off casual fans, and then all of us have to like constantly turn to our friends in the theater and explain what's going on screen or what comic book that person appeared in. Instead of like introducing so much stuff and trying to get us hyped for the next thing, I think they should just make it simpler. Go back to one post-credit scene if you need to. Iron Man just had one. Or I love the format of like one post-credit scene that teases and one post-credit scene that's a gag. I mean, heck, Captain America First Avenger just showed a trailer for the Avengers, and that was pretty great. Spider-Man No Way Home did the same thing, showed a trailer for Multiverse of Madness. I don't think Marvel has to overthink these and like throw in stunt cameos from movies that may never happen. I do think someday we'll see Harry Styles as Eros. I really hope we do. I think we'll see Brett Goldstein as Hercules. But by the time those movies or TV shows come around, what would have been like 5, 6, 7 years since the tease? Who's going to care by then? Just focus on the here and now. Take the advice of Master Yoda.
Never his mind on where he was. What he was doing.
Well guys, that's just our thoughts on the MCU post-credit scenes. Big shout out to the writer of this video, Mr. Colton Ogburn. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below or at either of us on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.
Doug, what are all these comments about me being in a TV?
I think they mean you're on TV.
Oh, because we do the show. Got it.